G'day from Australia. This is Dave's kitchen, and today we're going to do a Steak Diane. So I'm going to show you how to do that and prepare it with all the ingredients that we've got. I consider myself a food critic and a bit of an unaccredited cook. You know, do I know a lot about cooking? Probably not a great deal, but one thing I do know is a lot about my food. I didn't get this from nothing, and it ain't a tumour. First thing you need is a good set of sharp knives. Oh, I love knives. Alright, sharper the better. Because this is the sort of thing that you need. You need all the ingredients, as you see here, things like brandy. It's always really good cooking with alcohol because after you finish cooking with it, you can get on it. You know? I'll pour a red wine very shortly. But there's some few techniques we have to show you today in preparation for this Steak Diane. And I'll tell you now, we've got some mushrooms, not of the magic type. And we've also got some brandy. We've also got some shallots, good old onions, as we see here. We've got some, I'm going to cheat a little bit here, and I've actually got mushrooms that are actually sliced. But I have got some backups. And that's the real deal. We've got some salt, we've got some pepper, some Dijon mustard, which is a must for Steak Diane. Like I said, we've got some onions, we've got some cling wrap, don't know why that's there, but we'll work out something a bit later on. I'm doing some potatoes in the microwave, so I'm going to cheat a little bit here, alright? So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start getting started. I'm going to start doing a bit of chopping. And then once we start doing that and getting it going, I'll give you a bit of a commentary sort of along the way, yeah? Right. Right, what we're going to do here is we're actually going to start chopping up the shallots here. And don't cut them too thick, just a little bit, you know, thin. And start getting, and be generous with them. Don't sit there and just say to yourself, oh yeah, I'll scab out and just put a couple in there. You really, honestly want to put a whole heap. So the best way to do it is to bunch it all together, like this, and you start chopping ever so finely. Give them a bit of a smack out and a bit of a chop here, just to make sure that they're all sort of chopped up nice. Okay, be very careful when you do that. You don't want to put unnecessary red sauce in there. Right, the next ingredients we're going to do here is we're going to chop up a little bit of parsley. Now this parsley is actually from my herb garden. And there's nothing sinister in my herb garden, by the way, other than stuff that we use in cooking, so don't even go there. So what we're going to do again is chop this up quite fine. And to make sure that it's not going to be too chunky in your dish. First thing people are going to say when they eat it, go, oh shit, that parsley's chunky. You know, and that's the last thing that I want. So once we get, be very careful when you do this. We don't want red sauce again. Again, so get your little mixing bowl here with all your goodies in there. Okay. Exactly, look at that, yum. I'm noticing on some of the clips that I'm looking at, people are calling these shallots. Where do they get that from? Mate, good old fashioned onion. Just give it a bit of a sharp, just before we tuck into this onion here. Now tell me something, how many times have you gone to chop an onion up and you think to yourself, oh shit man, why is my eye stinging? You know? And this is what really sucks when you do onions. I hate it. But I've got this sort of solution, and just put these on. I don't know if you can see that through that camera. These are unreal. Cost a couple of bucks from down your local garden shop. You don't cry with these. So what we do here now, you're just going to pan down on this onion. When you cut your onions, make sure you cut them so you don't cut them too thick. Because if you start cutting them thick, when you actually go to cook them, it's going to take too long in the pan And the fact that is you may get a little bit of raw onion in your Diane sauce. And these little buggers will actually cook up quite nicely in the pan and fry away with the oil. Right, here we are now at the meat stage. What we've got here is probably cheap, shitty cuts, you know. What we call in Australia is Aussie rump. Rump is like the poor man's porterhouse, you know. Everyone can afford it. So what we've done here to prepare it, we've actually trimmed the fat away because we don't want any more of that. Right? And everyone else that eats it's probably going to say, oh geez, he hasn't trimmed the fat off it, because you know you get them people like I've been telling you about, the people you invite over for tea and no one appreciates nothing that you do. But the best way you start with your meat's really important because that's a really important part. Oh, I actually forgot to mention, I've poured myself a glass of red. When you cook, it's probably very appropriate to become incredibly pissed. Deal. So we crack a little bit of pepper over it. Get that happening like that. Make sure you do the other side, otherwise it's only half a job, is it really? Depends on how much pepper in that you got. You know, you can fool some people, I suppose. So that's all happening. This big bit's for me. A little bit of rock salt over this side. Now, as I was saying to you before, it's really important. The next thing that you need to honestly do is to ensure that your pan is right, because cooking your meat is really important. The last thing you want to do is to be bleeding all over your plate and everyone's going, oh, geez, he didn't even cook it. As I said to you before, the most important thing about cooking meat is ensuring that the pan is hot, the oil in the pan is hot. So when you put the meat in, you give it 4 minutes each side, and that should be sufficient enough to actually cook it. The people that want it well done, you leave it in a bit longer, which I probably will do. But as I said to you before, we're going to add a bit of a twist here and have a bit of a chicken happen as well. So it's chicken and Diane sauce. Probably never heard of that, but doesn't matter. So what we'll start doing is preparing the meat, and we'll get it moving, and we'll come up with the camera nice and slow so you can actually see it cooking. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start preparing this pan. So we've got some canola oil. You may want to use some virgin olive oil. That word virgin's pretty nasty, but the olive oil is nice anyway. So, or you may want to use there's some people just use as, you know, there's also animal fat if you really want to put that in. But we're going to use some of this today because it's supposed to be good for your arteries. So we'll put a little bit in. You notice there's actually quite a fair bit in there because we actually want the steak to actually simmer in this oil. So I suppose we really want you to see your heart surgeon in about another 6 months. So we'll just get this moving. Spin it around. Right, here we have this really nice meat we prepared a little bit earlier. Again, this is the poor man's steak. It's a bit of rump. And I must say, every man likes a bit of rump from time to time. You know what I mean? So we're going to stick this in. The oil in that pan's quite hot. So you'll see me put that in, watching I don't burn myself. Put that one in there. This one in here, the big one. Put that little sucker just in here. As you can see, and if we just zoom in on there now, down in there you can also see the flavours that are coming through there. We use this oil, believe it or not. And what's left over in here is a basis for the Steak Diane sauce, and that flavour and the rich flavours will start showing through. Again, like I said, about 4 minutes aside. You don't want it any more than that. The minute it's cooked, we take it out of here, and what we actually do is we actually put it in the oven so we sort of keep the meat warm. There's nothing worse than having your meat served cold and the Steak Diane over the top of it, because otherwise you're going to have to need a jackhammer to eat it. You know, and I don't feel like going to the dentist. I can start to smell that flavour coming through. That's looking absolutely wonderbar. So again, We'll go another 4 minutes here. Ensure that that's going well. Give it a bit of dip. You notice how I'm using these tongs? You're probably wondering why they're a little bit short, and I haven't got the real good ones. That's because they are short and we got nothing else to use. So, as they say, adapt, improvise and overcome. The only danger here is you don't stick your fingers in the oil and become a part of the menu. I don't know if you ever smelt burnt flesh. It actually tastes like pork. Some people don't know what they're missing.